When you talk about greatness in pitching, you always begin the discussion with Cy Young. He won 511 games. When you talk about greatness in the modern day, you talk about a Cy Young Award winner, 22-year-old Dwight Gooden of the New York Mets. You also talk, considering the National League, of the 1986 Cy Young Award winner, Houston's Mike Scott. Gooden pitched the All-Star game last year. Scott starts for the National League this year. They go head-to-head tonight in Houston.
The National Broadcasting Company, now in its 7th decade of bringing you baseball's memories. Baseball's milestones. Baseball's majesty. And baseball's magical moments. NBC Sports proudly presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week.
From the Astrodome in Houston, it's the New York Mets versus the Houston Astros. Tonight's game is brought to you by Miller Genuine Draft, cold-filtered draft beer. It's as real as it gets. By New York Life, to help you get the most out of life. By Buick and your Buick dealers. Buick, where better really matters. And by AC Delco, the smart part. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. Welcome to the great indoors of Houston with a definite atmosphere of a heavyweight championship. And come to think of it, a couple of heavyweights in Dwight Gooden and Mike Scott.
It was great to see the signs outside the ballpark. Standing room only. We're going to have a jammed ballpark tonight.
And for good reason. Dwight Gooden, by the way, 8-1 lifetime against the Astros. Mike Scott, if you discount the 2 LCS championship victories against the Mets, he is only 2-4 lifetime. And it's a question, we're just about at the halfway mark. Are these two clubs, or will either of these two make a move?
Well, I think the Mets have the tougher job because they have to catch the Cardinals just in a week. Last Friday, they were 5 games behind the Cardinals. Today, they're 10.5, so they lost 5.5 games to them. And the Cardinals make things happen. They're going to be tough to catch, and the Mets will have to start in their own clubhouse and stop making things happen.
And how? The Mets have lost 4 out of 5 to Houston. They've lost all 3 here in the Astrodome by 1 run. Meanwhile, the last we looked, the Cardinals have won 8 in a row. As far as Houston is concerned, 2.5 games back of the Reds and the one fly in the ointment going head-to-head, they can't beat Cincinnati.
No, and, you know, this Houston ball club, like last night, they were able to score 1 run on a bad throw to second base where Doran scored all the way from first. It's a daring ball club. You look at them and you say, well, they don't have a lot of speed because of stolen bases, but they run and they are daring.
And if things weren't going tough enough for Davy Johnson, he makes his all-star selections in Houston. Only 1 Astros on the club, and they want to eat him alive. We'll get to the starting lineups and a lot more, all coming up right after this. The New York Mets struggling to catch the Cardinals, 10.5 games back, and it's been a big struggle against the Astros. They've lost 4 out of 5 and all 3 here. Lenny Dykstra in center field, Wally Backman at second base, Keith Hernandez at first. Gary Carter in the cleanup spot behind the plate, Darryl Strawberry in right, Kevin McReynolds with a 13-game hitting streak in left. Howard Johnson at third, Rafael Santana at short, Dwight Gooden the pitcher. And facing them, Mike Scott, 10-4 with the league. He is 5-1 here in the Astrodome. However, he is 0-1 against the Mets, 2-6 lifetime. For Mike Scott, he's finally shown this year he's a little human. He allowed 4 earned runs in back-to-back starts. It's the first time that's happened since his first 2 starts of last year. And oddly enough, he has 2 shutouts, but the shutouts both on the road.
There's the defense. Cruz, Young, and Bass in the outfield. It's a big outfield here, even though they moved the fences in. It's Walling, Reynolds, Doran, Davis in the infield, Ashby behind the plate, and Mike Scott. Interesting when you talk to Vin and Ashby, I said, how many pitches does he have? He said, well, he simply tells me 1 is a fastball and 2 is not. That means fastball and split finger, and that's it.
So Mike Scott, the 1986 Cy Young Award winner, against Dwight Gooden, the 1985 Cy Young Award winner, and Lenny Dykstra to start it off. Dykstra hitting .295. Fouled away. By the way, before we get too far along, you might be wondering how many times Scott and Gooden have faced each other. This marks the 4th time they've started against each other in the regular season. Gooden is 2-0 with a no decision. Scott 0-2 with a no decision. Fly ball to left field. Jose Cruz has to go back a bit. 1 away. And of course, you put an asterisk and a footnote to the confrontations, because Scott and Gooden met in Game 1 of last year's League Championship Series, and Mike Scott won that game 1-0. The batter will be Wally Bachman. And there's Dwight Gooden, who'll be waiting his shot to go to the mound after Scott is finished. Bachman hitting .256, but he really isn't a right-handed batter. In other words, he plays almost always left-handed, and he's hitting over .280 from this side of the plate. What drags the average down, the few times that he does hit as a right-handed batter, he's hitting less than 100. 1-0. They have to pull up the corners on him because he's always a threat to bunt left-handed.
And if you don't think they go in with a plan, Bachman says, I'm going to try to take him deep into the count. That means 2 balls, no strikes, 3-1. Lay off the split finger fastball and hope I can hit it. Split finger fastball and hit his fastball.
Well, he was a little late, jammed and fouled it off to the left, out of play. With Bachman having some problems this year, he had a pulled hamstring. His average has tailed off. This time last year, he was hitting .340. Probably as good a platoon as there is in baseball, with Bachman and Tuffle at second base. Fouled away.
The 2 fastballs that Scott has thrown, Bachman has had a swing. He's been behind. The split finger he's been able to lay off. When Scott gets under that fastball, it really rides high. It's almost like he's thrown from underneath it, and that's when that thing really tails off.
2 balls and 2 strikes to Wally Bachman. Got him, and that's what they came to see.
And there it was, where he gets under that fastball and really zips it in there. It's out of the strike zone. A very difficult pitch to lay off of, especially with 2 strikes. That's what they look for right there. That's the perfect pitch for Mike Scott.
Well, they said they were selling standing room only. They're not all in here yet, but we're expecting to see a lot of strikeouts. So for Wally Bachman, it's just a case of welcome to the club. By the way, the Astros figure to go over the 1 million mark and become the 7th National League team to pass 1 million in home attendance. High foul off first base. Davis to take a look, but that's about all. 0-1.
A real tribute to Mike Scott's control is that, remember, Lenny Dykstra swung at the first pitch. Hernandez goes up there and swings at the first pitch. They say he's going to get the ball over, so let's not spot him.
He gives Mike Scott a very bad time. Fouled away, 0-2. He is hitting just under .400 in his career against Mike Scott, and he has hit 6 home runs against him. And as you see the C just below the left shoulder, indicating that Keith is the captain of the team.
Young in center field has moved over to left center now with 2 strikes.
0-2. Way outside. Ashby could barely slow it down. 1-2 the count to Keith Hernandez. It is a troubled New York Mets team that is here. In fact, it was Keith Hernandez who complained on July the 6th in Atlanta in the clubhouse. What is this, the press lounge or the clubhouse? But they certainly have gotten the attention, and for many good reasons. Named Strawberry and Bachman and Mazzilli and Hernandez.
It was a somber bench. In fact, I stuck a needle in Davey. I said, Davey, I'd ask you what's new, but I don't have time.
No. 1-2 the count to Keith Hernandez. Got him. 2 strikeouts for Mike Scott. His high is 14, and he has had a bunch this year. No score. The Houston Astros, 2.5 games back of the Cincinnati Reds, will have Gerald Young, a switch hitter in center field. Billy Hatcher is on the disabled list, and they really need him. Bill Doran at second base, Denny Walling at third, and Glenn Davis at first base. Then Kevin Bass, Jose Cruz, Alan Ashby, Craig Reynolds, and Mike Scott. And on the mound, Dwight Gooden. He has beaten the Astros 7 straight. He is 5-2, no record this year, 8-1 lifetime. So Gerald Young, who was just called up from Tucson, runs very well. Had his first big league hit last night. Stole over 40 at Tucson, so if he gets aboard, he could be a threat. 0-1.
Oh, I saw him in the clubhouse, and he looks like the American Legion team had just pulled up.
Yeah.
What a baby face.
So Gerald Young trying to fill in for Billy Hatcher, who was a one-man gang. Hatcher was hitting .316, 7 home runs, 33 stolen bases, having a great year, but he turned an ankle Monday night, and he was hitting almost .350 for 10-11 games when he turned the ankle. 0-2. Well, that's an eye-opener. You're young Gerald Young, and that makes you old in a hurry.
Well, it ages you a bit, but if it had been behind him, he'd have really looked for the home.
Hey, Dwight, see me? I'm right here.
That ball just kind of sailed. He tried to put a little extra on it, and he let it go a bit too high. That'll make you think a little bit.
1-2 the count to Gerald Young. It's a familiar backdrop for a game where Dwight Gooden is pitching. They already have draped 2 Ks on the wall in left field. But in this instance, and for the remainder of the night, those Ks will represent the work turned in by Mike Scott. And alongside it, the exaggerated spelling of the name Jose Cruz. 2-2 to Young. On the corner, so Dwight Gooden starts off with a flourish under his name. Remember, in his brilliant young career, Gooden has struck out 16 batters 3 times. So, Gerald, you've just had a membership card filled out. Gooden has struck out 10 as a high this year, 10 Cubs, 32 times in his career. He has had double-figure strikeout games. Last night's hero, Bill Doran. Doran hit a home run against left-handed Randy Myers to give the Astros another 1-run victory against the Mets. All 3 Houston victories this year against New York in the Astrodome by 1 run. In there. 1-1.
Gooden with a good overhand curveball. He's not been able to throw it for a strike, and that fastball he just got over, indicative that he's leaning on his fastball, but it's the high one you got to lay off of.
2 balls, 1 strike. That's Steve Ripley behind the plate. The crew chief, Doug Harvey at first, Jerry Davis at second, and Dick Stello at third. Matt Galante coaching at first, and Dennis Menke around at third. A drive to center. Lenny Dykstra coming up for it. So Bill Doran lines out to Dykstra, 2 down, and Denny Walling coming up.
Ben, I took an informal survey of why they wear wristbands. Walling gave me one of the good answers. He said it's very convenient to wipe your forehead with when you take your cap off.
And it's not too easy to really perspire here in the Astrodome. They usually keep the temperature about 72.
Yeah, well, but that was... I got some dandy answers.
Well, all the big guys on the block wear them. Strike 1.
That was one of the answers. Santana said, I'm just trying to sweat. That's why I wear it.
1-1 to count. For Dwight Gooden, his first matchup against the Astros this year. 22 years old. He'll be 23 in November. 1-2.
You might note the glove that Gooden has. It is a good size, bigger than the infielder's glove to hide that ball. It's a brand new one, and you can hardly get that ball out of there. I mean, you may need a road map, but that's the perfect glove to hide that ball.
1-2 the count to Denny Walling. 2-2. In matching up these two clubs, you don't expect too many home runs here. The Astros have only hit 27 at home. It's 330 down the lines, 378 up the alleys, and 400 to center. But because it has always kept about 72, the ball evidently doesn't fly as in other places. Ball 3.
Do you think there was a time when they manipulated the air conditioning?
Yeah, that was the gag, but they said no. If they tried to manipulate it, it would rain in here. They've had a game rained in here. Pitch fouled away. That's because it rained so hard outside the Astrodome, you couldn't get here. So that was their first rain out. 3-2. The count to Denny Walling. 2 down in the first inning. No score. The Astros trying to catch the Cincinnati Reds. They won't play them again head-to-head for 3 months. The Reds have beaten the Astros 9 out of 12. Fouled away. However, the Astros will play the Reds 6 times in the last 2 weeks, including the last 3 games of the year in Houston. And it was interesting as we watched Gooden try to punch out Walling. 3-2. Ground ball to the right side. Backman. So the Astros are gone. We'll conclude the thought about Houston and Cincinnati, and we're scoreless at the end of 1. Remember when you played in Sand Lodge and you'd holler at the kid on the block, you couldn't break a pane of glass? Well, they never said that about Dwight Gooden. Remember the pitch that sailed away when Gerald Young was at the plate? Well, you can see where they have tried to keep the glass together. Gooden can break plexiglass.
You got that right with an aspirin.
1 ball and 1 strike to Gary Carter.
The big change in Scott came as a pitcher everybody feels when he didn't throw the curveball and the slider as much, and it relieved his tendonitis in the elbow.
1 ball, 1 strike, and that's ball 2. 2-1. It's interesting, too, in a sense, both Scott and Gooden share an approximate anniversary. Last May is when Scotty became overpowering. He had won 18 the year before, but last May is when he began striking out so many people and wound up with 300. Gooden last May began to show a slight sign of tailing off. 2-2 to Gary Carter. He's been kind of a hot hitter for the last month with a half a dozen home runs and 16 RBIs. Ground ball to shortstop. Craig Reynolds there. And in seeing Craig Reynolds make the play on Gary Carter, it does bring up a rather poignant situation here in Houston. The fact that Dickie Thon was unable to come back. And that's really heartbreaking, and Craig'd be the first guy to agree. And we just hope and pray that Thon will eventually get his vision back and come back to the game he loved so much. Here's Darryl Strawberry. The eye of the storm. 0-1.
Now he's got oversized sweatbands on.
1 ball and no strikes to Darryl. Ball 2. Interestingly enough, with all of the verbal gunfire going around in Mets clubhouse, if you look up on the Cole statistical sheet, he leads the Mets in games played. Ball 3.
Davy Johnson said that there was a time he felt too much going on in the clubhouse. He lost a little bit of control, but that's all over, and let's just play baseball. They're trying to stop the soap opera feeling that they have.
3-0 pitch in there. By actual count, Davy Johnson called 7 meetings so far this year. to try and smooth things over and solve a bad situation. Ground ball to the hole, base hit into left field. So Darryl Strawberry, a one-out single to left, and that'll bring up Kevin McReynolds.
I tell you, Vin, the manager can only do so much. The players have to take hold, and they have to put the zippers on the mounds.
In fact, I guess that really was Davy's point, not to pop off in the press. And then with all of his other problems, Mookie Wilson said, I wanted to be traded.
Well, that you can understand. He's a good player. He doesn't want to sit on the bench. Dykstra said the same thing. That you can understand. They're anxious to play, and you can only play 9.
Kevin McReynolds with a 13-game hitting streak. Fouled it away. Darryl Strawberry standing at first base. Strawberry has stolen 12 out of 18, and if there is one chink in the armor of Mike Scott, it is the fact he has not been doing a good job of holding runners on. In fact, a little earlier, opponents were 15 out of 15 in stolen bases against him.
And he wants to go, too. He's quick throwing to first base, Scott is, but he's very deliberate to the plate, and that's where it counts. And Ashby has a tough time. He looks to the bench because Lanier calls the pitch outs, but Strawberry's got some ideas.
0-1. 1 ball, 1 strike. The opponents have now stolen 18 in 19 attempts against Mike Scott. The only man they've caught, Juan Samuel, was caught stealing last Sunday. 1-1 to count to Kevin McReynolds. Howard Johnson on deck. Kevin 2 years ago had a 15-game hitting streak with the Padres. There goes Strawberry. Swung on and missed. The throw down. It's stolen. So that makes it 19 out of 20 stolen bases against Mike Scott. And yet, he is 10-4. Imagine if he knew how to hold runners on.
Well, he doesn't get that many runners on to practice it, I guess. But Strawberry got, I would say, an average jump. The ball that Ashby had to handle was a good one. Low throw, and Dorn had to make sure he caught that ball because he well knows, like last night, that ball got by the shortstop, and he was able to score from first, so he wanted to catch that ball rather than try to make a one-hand grab and make a tag.
So Strawberry is 13 out of 19, and McReynolds trying to pick him up. 1-2. Not much of a swing. Sometimes you talk about a hitter being cheated in the sense you know he didn't have a good rip at the ball. That was a classic case.
That's what they call an emergency swing. It's an emergency, and you hope you foul it off because the rest of the body is not responding.
Yeah, it was all with the hand. So McReynolds becomes strikeout number 3 for Mike Scott. And with 2 down, Howard Johnson, and they rack up another K. Ball 1. Hojo, the switch hitter, batting left-handed. However, he has much better numbers as a right-handed batter. He does have 8 home runs and 26 RBIs from this side of the plate. And even Howard Johnson, who is considered soft-spoken and quiet, he's been quoted a lot lately. 1-0. High chopper over the mound, charging Reynolds. He'll have to throw in a hurry. Got him. No runs, 1 hit, a man left at the end of an inning and a half. No score.
Mike Scott makes a good play by not making the play. Watch what happens. He sees the ball is going to be over his head. Instead of trying to get it and deflecting it, he lets it go. Reynolds makes a super major league play. But on the other end, Davis scoops it up nicely, as you'll see on this one.
Good play to end the top of the second. Now in the bottom of the second inning, Glenn Davis, Kevin Bass, and Jose Cruz. Davis has not had much success at all with Dwight Gooden. Lifetime, he's hitting less than 120. However, in the first game of the league championship series, in his first at-bat, he hit a home run against Gooden, and it gave Mike Scott a 1-0 victory. 2-0. Interesting thing, early this year in spring training, Glenn Davis had a disagreement about his contract with the Houston front office, and the fans in Houston chipped in to try and bring them closer together, and they raised over, well, $5,000. High fly ball to left field. McReynolds is there. It's playable. One away. Anyway, having already raised over $5,000, that $5,000 has been sent to the Texas Association for the Prevention of Blindness. And in talking about money, he lost $25,000 by not being picked for the All-Star team. That was an incentive bonus. So one away, and Kevin Bass coming up.
Kevin Bass is the winner of my informal poll with his answer of why I wear a sweatband.
Why is that? Ball one.
He said, I have a small arm complex.
Well, it makes him look bigger.
I guess.
Funny. Tell you, he was awfully big when he bled the arm. There's nothing small about that.
There it is. He's got his picture and everything on it.
James Mims has been here.
He's got a good sense of humor, Bass. I'll tell you, he was funny.
And he got the base hit, you know, to break up the no-hitter. The no-hit attempt by Floyd Yeoman. Kevin Bass. Switch hitter, solid all-around ball player. Has hit in 7 of his last 9. 3-0 the count. He had 4 RBIs against the Cubs and Giants. And as you can see, very high. Bottom of the 2nd inning, 1 out, no score. Could be a gem tonight. Dwight Gooden and Mike Scott. So there's ball 4 to Kevin Bass. So Gooden's first walk. Now the batter is Jose Cruz, a left-hand hitter. That might determine whether Bass would even think about running. Bass has stolen 10 out of 17. Cruz is struggling. He's going to be 40 in August. And he's hitting just .248. He is the hungriest active player when you realize only Ernie Banks played more games without getting into the World Series. Oh, he had him leaning, too. He had him the wrong way, and Bass was almost reeled in.
Gooden has really worked hard on his move to first base. There you see it. He had ideas, and if that throw is a little lower, it was to the right side, but not low enough to make that quick tag.
In comparison, opponents have stolen 7 out of 10 against Gooden, but he has picked 2 off at first base. Little foul off to the left, out of play, and the count 0-1. We were talking a little while ago about the Astros trying to catch the Reds. You know, last year, the Reds and the Astros had the exact records against the other 10 teams. The difference, the Astros won 14 of 18 from the Reds, and they finished 10 in front of Cincinnati. This year, the Reds have beaten the Astros 9 out of 12, including 5 out of 6 in Cincinnati. Meanwhile, the Mets trying to catch the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have given them a bad time and beaten them 6 out of 9. 0-1 to Jose Cruz. So Kevin Bass trying to find an opening. You know, 8 times in 2 years now, the Mets and Houston, one team has beaten the other in its last at-bat, and that included last night. So they usually put on a great show. And there goes Bass. Ground ball into right field. Base hit. Bass will go to third, and Strawberry will throw into second base to Wally Backman. First and third, 1 out. Alan Ashby coming up.
That's the one thing about this Houston club. You can't measure their speed by just looking at the stolen bases that they accumulate. There's a case of speed. They put a play on, and the hit and run is usually a defensive play to stay away from the double play, but when you get the base hit like that, it really sets up the big inning.
Alan Ashby, who is having the year of his life and was visibly disappointed over not making the All-Star team. Alan hitting .303. And just about all of the damage that he has inflicted has been as a left-handed batter. Good breaking ball for a strike. All of his home runs hit left-handed. One away. Ashby, if you're wondering about it, does not have a scoring fly ball, and he has grounded into 5 double plays. 0-1. In the dirt, gets away, the run will score, Cruz to second.
It's a tough pitch to block, that overhand curveball, and he threw it about 50 feet. It caroms off Gary Carter's left arm, and not only does the run score, you lose the double play. Now, I mean, this is a real short curveball, like he had gripped too tight and tried to really squeeze it. You saw it bounce maybe 3-4 feet in front of home plate, and that overhand curveball puts a lot of spin on it, and that's sheer luck when you're able to block that one.
So for Gary Carter, trying to block Dwight Gooden's first wild pitch of the year. And the Astros lead 1-0. Ashby now trying to pick up Cruz from second base. I would think with Dwight Gooden and Mike Scott, the back lines of the hitter's box will be wiped out very, very soon. I don't know anybody who won't be on the back line when these two are pitching.
You'll try to get as much distance between you and the pitcher as you possibly can, no doubt about it.
If anybody can lengthen it out, the hitter's going to try to do it. 2-1. Ball 3. Alan Ashby will be followed by a left-hand batter, Craig Reynolds. Craig getting ready.
Gooden has not had good control of the curveball at all and just fair the fastball. He's thrown 14 strikes and 16 balls.
Ashby, lifetime a .235 hitter against Gooden, and takes it inside. Ball 4. So Gooden has allowed 2 walks, a base hit, and a wild pitch for a run. And Craig Reynolds coming out. Now, how has Reynolds done? He's done pretty well considering it's Gooden. Reynolds has 8 hits, 2 RBIs, and a .258 career average. And Dwight Gooden talking about the Mets and where they are 10.5 games back and approaching the All-Star break. A year ago, they had just about clinched at the All-Star break. The Astros at the break a year ago, they were 1 back of Cincinnati and wound up 10 over Cincinnati. Cruz and Ashby the runners. Reynolds badly fooled way out in front of that slow breaking ball. And he's struggling with the bat.
This is the best curveball he's thrown. You can really see it snap off right there, and Reynolds was nowhere close.
One thing about Reynolds, he doesn't strike out. That is to say, he strikes out about 10% of the time. And he's hit into only 1 double play. And he lifts a fly ball to right field. Strawberry calling, but so is Dykstra. And Strawberry, the taller of the two, makes the catch. Had they been the same size, you might have had a problem on that one. Strawberry is 6'6", and Dykstra is 5'10".
Dykstra came a long way from center field for whatever reason, only known to him because it was really the right fielder's ball.
So with 2 down, Mike Scott coming up. Scotty has 2 hits, 1 RBI. He is a true pitcher. He strikes out about half the time. 1-0 in favor of the Astros, second inning. Fouled away. 0-1.
Since I've lost a couple houses to you,
Yeah, well,
do you think that this pitch will be a curveball?
I wouldn't think so. Why would I want to throw him a curveball?
Because he won't be able to hit it. He won't come close to it. He fouled off a fastball to break his slump.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
All right. Small house by the beach. No balls, 1 strike. Fastball. Now, I'll tell you why you owe me another house.
All right.
Let me explain psychologically.
All right, explain psychologically.
He's already bounced a curveball for a wild pitch.
Yeah.
Now he's saying, I'm not going to wild pitch with a pitcher up there. He's got to hit my heat, my smoke.
You can't think about wild pitching. Again, that's negative thinking. You'll get the bullpen up in a hurry.
Hey, he threw a fastball, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
doesn't make me a bad person.
No, it doesn't. 2 balls and 1 strike. The count to Mike Scott.
Now he's got to throw a fastball. He'll probably throw a curve. Why would you get behind on a pitcher? Get in out of that heat and get him out of there.
1-0 Astros in the 2nd inning. And Dwight Gooden will wild pitch the run over. And it really is questionable about whether the run could have scored on the fly ball by Reynolds. High pop fly on the left side. And it will be Howard Johnson. So 1 run, 1 hit, 2 left, 1-0 Houston. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Gary Carter and Mel Stoudemire had a very animated conversation, and what's on Gary's mind is that curveball that got by. There you see how he blocked it, and it caromed off his arm, and it's the spin of the ball that got him. He was in front of it. And you saw him start to point to his arm. That spin on an overhand curveball is really tricky.
Meanwhile, Ron Darling continuing to talk to Dwight Gooden. Boy, Gooden, in listening to Darling is quite a story. 19 starts, no complete game. Little fly ball into shallow center. Bill Doran backs out to handle it. Santana with a little 5-game hitting streak pops it up 1 away. That'll bring up Dwight Gooden. Gooden has 3 hits, 1 RBI. The interesting thing is he is a much better hitter than Mike Scott, and for a particular reason he makes contact. As a hitter and as a pitcher combined, it's remarkable. He has struck out once in 19 at-bats. Ball 1.
He had a couple in the seats during batting practice.
1 away, top of the 3rd inning. I'm Vin Scully along with Joe Garagiola. The Astros are leading 1-0 on a walk, a single, and a wild pitch. Foul back. 1-1. A reminder, we'll be right here again tomorrow as the Mets and the Astros roll around the Astrodome. One ball, 1 strike. Fouled off. These 2 teams split 2 games in New York in April. Then in May, the Astros swept 2 here in the Astrodome. And in each of those games, the winning run came either in the 9th or 10th inning. So they really cut him close. Got him. So after 20 at-bats, he has struck out twice. Strikeout number 4 from Mike Scott. And Len Dykstra coming up. Well, I assume that was in response to Mookie Wilson going to the writers saying, hey, fellas, I'd like to be traded. Dykstra, of course, was hoping to be traded earlier this year when he felt he wasn't getting enough time.
I know you used the word hoping, but I just wonder how much of it was hope. Yep. You know, those guys, a lot of it is just frustration, and when they seem to like it there at the Championship Ball Club, they just want to play, and you can only play 9.
Dykstra hitting .284, flied to left field in the 1st inning. It looked like the Mets was starting to make a move last week. They won 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals, and everybody said, oh, they've gotten well. And then they turned right around and lost 3 out of 4 in Cincinnati. Whoops. Boy, you start guessing for that downer, and you get one up around the chin.
Now, that was a good high inside pitch, and I've seen a couple on television, Vin, where that pitch is made, and out to the mound they go. And I was really happy to see the president of the National League come out with the statement that he said, let's play baseball, and let's not run out to the mound every 20 seconds. If there is a beanball and trying to hurt somebody, then he'll do something about it, but you still have to pitch inside. And Dykstra, he knew it, and he was inside. He was kind of going outside to get it, and boom, down he goes.
2 balls and 1 strike. Ball 3. Lenny Dykstra has 7 home runs, 20 RBIs.
And he wears a sweatband, in case you're interested, because he said his mom says it looks nice. Big league players wear different equipment for different reasons. He only wears it on Game of the Week, by the way.
Oh, really?
That's what he said. Only on Game of the Week, because Mom's watching.
Style. 3-1 to Nails. 3-2. Lenny's been struggling with the bat. And Mike Scott, a tough man to struggle against, has already punched out 4. Mike's high this year. He had 14 against Cincinnati. That's also his career high at 14 against San Diego. In the last 18 games, Dykstra is hitting only .212. 3-2. Ground ball fair inside first, down the line. Dykstra on his way to second at least. Bass with a good arm, and Dykstra holding. So a 2-out double by Lenny Dykstra puts the tying run at second base and will bring up Wally Backman.
Davis gives it a good attempt. He was playing a little bit off the line. Doesn't come close to it. Gave it a good try.
One to nothing in favor of the Astros. The Mets now with a tying run at second, and here's Wally Backman. Backman struck out in the first inning. Now Scott is staying too far inside. That's how he got behind and walked Dykstra, and he starts up way inside on Backman.
It's kind of a rule of thumb. When a fellow keeps pitching inside to move you back, it's because he's going to come back and try to jam you. I don't say that's all the time, but most of the time.
And he's struggling behind again. So Scott, 2 balls and no strikes on Wally Backman.
Backman's game plan was to go into the count with Scott, meaning that at least 2 balls and no strikes, and he's been able to do it both times at bat.
2-0. And he went after the 2-0 pitch, and it's going to slice in the corner, foul, and out of play. Wally Backman, along with Mookie Wilson, have been in the Mets organization the longest since the 1977 draft. You may or may not remember that Mike Scott was drafted by the Mets back in 1976. And there's Mookie Wilson and Tim Tuffle. 2-1. Scott was traded to the Astros for outfielder Danny Heap. 2-2.
There was that split finger thing, and that's why you like to get that count 2-0. Chances are you're going to get a fastball if you're Backman, but even up now, you just can expect anything.
We should also say here we are in the 3rd inning. Not one hitter has asked the umpire to examine the ball. Whoa. And Scott didn't like it. He turned his head. He didn't want to look at it. 3-2. On deck, remember, is somebody who hits him hard, Keith Hernandez.
He was going for the strikeout and simply overthrows it. You could see him kind of got under that ball and pushed it up. He didn't stay under that fastball as they want him to.
3-2. Ground ball up the middle. That's a base hit. Charging it is Gerald Young. Here comes Dykstra. The throw offline and gets away. And down to second base goes Backman. And we have a 1-1 tie.
And the price that Scott had to pay on the 3-2 is that he was breaking towards first base on his delivery and was really not in position to field that ball as he came back up the middle. Backman was watching the throw. Now watch it. He's breaking towards first base and couldn't even come close to it. And it's a big base hit. The 2-out base hit driving in a run is always a big one.
And then a poor throw and an error charge to Gerald Young, the young center fielder, allowing a possible tie-breaking run to move to second base. So here comes Keith Hernandez, who struck out in the first inning, but as we say, in his career, has been very successful against Scott. Hernandez with 10 home runs, 39 runs batted in.
He may not get a chance to bat, though, then, with first base open.
Right, and Gary Carter on deck, and they'll take the bat right out of his hands, which means the error by Gerald Young may be a better defensive play than it first looked at.
Well, you never want to give him the extra base, true, but you got the right-hander Carter against the right-hander Scott.
So Lanier sends Hernandez, who's hitting almost 400 against Scott, and Hal just sends him on his way.
And I like that, to where he just puts it right now. He doesn't give him one of those signs that don't give him anything good to hit, and maybe he'll chase a bad ball. He took the monkey right off Scott, and he said, put him on and let's get Carter.
So Gary Carter coming up. 2 on, 2 out. 1-1 tie. Hernandez at first, Backman at second. A run, 3 hits for the Mets. A run, 1 hit for the Astros. Gary Carter has 11 home runs, 42 runs batted in, hitting .240. Late jammed and fouled it away off to the right. 0-1. The old idea, don't let a power hitter extend his arms. Boy, he really crowded him with that one.
Scott, when he has the good split finger, according to his catcher Ashby, can literally spot the ball. It's not like a knuckleball where you throw it in the general direction of home plate and hope it's a strike. He can spot it.
Well, he's on the spot right now. Now, if ever anybody was going to say to the umpire, look at the ball, that was a classic. The bottom drops out of this thing.
And it's thrown so hard, that split finger fastball, you can see that thing just drop. And when you hit by rotation, it looks like a fastball. You adjust for it, and when it falls like that, there's nothing you can do except maybe look at the one edge.
Mike Scott is working for a living. He's made 23 pitches in this inning. Got him. 5 strikeouts for Mike Scott. And at the end of 2.5 innings, a 1-1 tie. We go to the bottom of the 3rd inning in a dandy here, a 1-1 tie. Mike Scott with 5 strikeouts. He's been in a little trouble. Gooden with 1 strikeout. And it'll be Gerald Young, Bill Doran, and then Denny Walling. Gerald Young in the 1st inning had one break the glass behind home plate, and then to no one's surprise struck out. Ground ball inside first, off the glove of Hernandez. No further play. Backman tried to make it anyway. Young lost sight of the ball. Carter is trying to run it down, and since it hit the protective railing off first base, and they're going to call Gerald Young back to first. He lost sight of the ball, but Doug Harvey was watching. So Young bounces one off Keith Hernandez's glove, and it's a base hit.
Hernandez trying to backhand it, hitting right on the wrist.
Backman trying to bail him out with the feed, and bare hand effort went down the drain, and Young will have to stay at first.
They were trying to tell Young, I was trying to see if I could see it on the picture, but the whole bench was waving him, but the youngster was watching the ball and then lost it.
Here's Bill Doran now. Solid, most consistent player, I think, on the field. And I know that might sound almost heretical. There are so many stars. But when you talk about consistency, thy name is Doran.
You talk about the All-Star game. I don't think this would have been too upsetting for this youngster to make it.
Oh,
he's had that kind of a year.
You're so right. And there goes Young. The pitch is high. The throw is into the runner into center field. Dykstra backs up. Young going to third. He's in there.
That's the kind of thing that they do. They'll dare you. Carter has a good ball to handle, and you notice Doran, that's a tough thing when you put that bat right at eye level. The throw is low as short hopper. Dykstra alertly there, gets off a good throw, doesn't have that strong an arm. It's close enough, but Young is in there. Straight steal, look at that head. He's looking for the bag. Head first slide, sees the ball all the way.
So Gerald Young a rookie who is now wearing an old uniform. Boy, he's put some mileage on that thing, and Bill Doran trying to pick him up. The infield is back. They would concede the run. We're talking about Doran's consistency. Last year, he hit .275 after the All-Star game and .277 before it. He hit .277 against the East, .276 against the West. He hit .276 last year. He's hitting .275 with the game started tonight. Down the line, curling foul, and out of play.
Well, it was a little thing that he did, Vin, when Doran just put that bat up there like he was going to bunt. But when you get that bat at eye level as a catcher, I'm telling you, it's so distracting because you're trying to get above or below it, and you really should be concentrating on your throw, and yet it throws you off enough. Not that it forced Gary into a bad throw. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that Doran didn't make it any easier and stand there like a foul pole and just take it.
A sign of the good ball player, never make it easy for you. So the runner at third in the infield back. Only Johnson is about even with the bag at third. 1-2 the count, and Gooden would love to come up with a K here. And maybe he tried too hard to come that high and overthrew. 2-2 the count. The Mets have been making things tough for their pitchers anyway. Their defense has been not that of a championship team. Line drive, foul down the line.
That was a tough pitch, curveball, and I mean a good one. It was out of the strike zone. It's a 2-2 count. He couldn't take it, and he went down and got it. Watch this pitch. It snaps off. It doesn't just roll there. Down she goes, and Doran went right down after it, fouling it all away. Look at Carter was on his knees, ready to block it again. That was a tough pitch to foul off.
To flesh out the point about the Mets defense, they have now made one less error than the last place San Diego Padres. Fouled away. And of course, with errors go along a lot of unearned runs. So Dwight Gooden, who contributed to his own problem with a wild pitch in the second inning, now on a ground ball off a Gold Glove, Keith Hernandez, a stolen base and a throwing error charge to Gary Carter. He's in the soup again. 2-2 to Doran with Walling and Davis behind him. Ball 3. Dwight has already walked 2.
And this is a big batter for a lot of reasons. When you score a run to tie it, and you know it's going to be looks like a tightly contested game, you don't want that other club coming right back and scoring on you when you've just tied it. And the Astros not only are on the verge of doing that, but with the first 2 hitters.
He leads the club in walks. And did you see his head and his whole body flinch and that big overhead downer to strike him out? What a pitch. That was Lord Charles.
That's the best curveball he's thrown, and you just don't hit that. That'll send you right to the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's an overhand curveball, and that did everything but just dot the Astros.
Oh. So Bill Doran strikes out on the best pitch that Gooden has made tonight, and in the individual battle, certainly that's not a payoff window, but is one of great interest when these two hook up. Denny Walling. Now the infield is up. Shot off the leg of Gooden, deflected to Johnson, who holds Young and throws out Walling. What a play, but let's see if Gooden is all right.
Walling thought he had himself a base hit, and then when he saw the ball in play, he kind of put on some extra speed, but not in time. But it was a shot hit off Gooden's. Oh, man, that really got off his ankle.
Whoa. I'm surprised if the ball hit his left ankle. That's his front foot as he's delivering. I'm surprised he didn't go down. And maybe the fact that he didn't go down means that the ankle did not take the brunt of the ball. Otherwise, I'd imagine, like, well, down here in Texas, tying a steer and just jerking the leg out from under. Does that sound good?
Well, it sounds good.
For a kid from the streets of New York, right?
You've been watching those John Wayne movies. But it looked like he had already braced himself and had finished his delivery. It was set. That may have been the thing that kept him from getting upended. We'll get a good look at it with our replay here and see what happens. But that may be the only thing.
And actually, it looks like it got the right ankle.
Foot. Yeah, and he keeps shaking the left, but it was the right ankle.
Yeah, he only missed by one.
Yeah, 1 out of 2 ain't bad, huh? I couldn't tell on that one.
Yeah, that was the right ankle. That's why it deflected on such an angle. And Howard Johnson made a big play and save and kept the runner at third.
That was the big thing. He had enough presence to really look and see what the runner was doing. It'd be a big, big inning to get out of if he can do it.
So with 2 down and a runner at third, the batter is Glenn Davis, who flied to left field in the second inning. 1-1 tie in the third. Dwight Gooden and Mike Scott. As we mentioned, they have met 4 times. Scott is 2-0 with a no decision. Gooden is 0-2 with a no decision, and that's popped up. Coming down the line is Howard Johnson. And so Gooden dodges the bullet, although he did get nicked. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, 1 error. At the end of 3, a 1-1 tie. Maybe you remember how it all began. He had publicity pictures taken, then came to the ballpark and said he couldn't play. The publicity pictures were for a MTV song that he sang the night before. Everyone is wondering, what did it sound like? What did it look like? Here it is.
My name is Darryl, I'm a baseball player. One thing I forgot to say it. When I'm on the field, I'm on top of the world. I get screams from all the girls. Everybody in the stadium screams for me. Strike 1, strike 2, but no strike 3. When I'm running, all the players make space. I run, I slide, and then I'm safe.
He better hit 300.
At least 300. Okay, now we know what it was all about. And here's Darryl, followed by Kevin McReynolds and then Howard Johnson. Strawberry singled to left field in the second inning, stole second, but they left him. And we have a 1-1 tie as we move into the 4th inning.
Big inning for the Mets and Gooden to be able to get out of that.
Oh, and 1 as he picked up the outside corner. Strawberry, a little bit of feast or famine. 36 of his 49 RBIs have come because of home runs. Yet he went about 3 weeks from his 20th home run to his 21st. So for the year, 21 and 49 RBIs. High foul off third, slicing way out of play before what would appear now to be that capacity crowd we expected, and a crowd that will certainly push the Astros over the 1 million mark. 1-2 to Strawberry, then McReynolds and Johnson. 1-1 in the 4th. Drive to right field, but he hit it more on the hands, and Bass is there to get both hands on it. So Strawberry was jammed, 1 away. Well, Dwight Gooden apparently okay. You do see him shaking that left foot, but it was the right foot that was hit by the ball. Maybe he twisted the left foot. Kevin McReynolds, with his 13-game hitting streak, struck out in the second inning. Kevin 0 for 1, and he's been struggling of late, and then trying to come out of it. 285 average. 14 home runs, 46 RBIs. 1-1. Two balls and 1 strike to Kevin. Two and 1. I was wondering if all of the Ks that are draped on the balconies would relate to Mike Scott, and the answer is no. Way out in right center field, there is a small island of loyalty for Dwight Gooden. And there you can see it, the Dr. K corner. So the Dr. K corner is represented. Meanwhile, Mike Scott has racked up 5 big Ks in the left field corner. And driven to deep left field. Cruz doesn't bother. It's gone upstairs. For Kevin McReynolds, his 15th home run of the year. He is now hit in 14 straight. And for Mike Scott, the 10th home run that he has allowed this year. And he really jumped on it.
Looked like a fastball, but belt high. And McReynolds, who doesn't say much, he's one of the quiet guys. You wind him up, and he just goes out and hits the ball and catches it. He got the fastball he wanted, and he has given the Mets the lead. Right over the plate, belt high.
Boy, that fills the definition of right down the pipe. Strike to Howard Johnson, 0-1. So the Mets, 2 runs, 4 hits, and an error. The Astros, 1 run, 2 hits, and an error. We're in the 4th inning. Kevin McReynolds, his 15th of the year. 1 ball and 1 strike.
You can see how the mood on the bench has changed. The Mets, who really thought they were going to give up a run when Gerald Young got the 3rd and nobody out, Gooden pitches him out of it, and they come back the next inning and take the lead with a home run. So when you talk about this thing called momentum, you've just seen it swing.
So Gooden goes back out in front, leading, and the pitch to Hojo is low, ball 2, 2-1. Johnson is having a good year. In fact, he already has a career high in home runs. He's very close to his career high of RBIs. We're only halfway through, and he's already passed his career high in stolen bases. And he hits this one right at Gerald Young, and it started to take off on him. Nice play.
The players talk about the sound being very deceptive here, that everything sounds the same, deceptive to the extent that you can't really tell if a ball's hit good or bad, and you just, that's it. It's the same dull thud.
Of course, you're not really supposed to play by ear anyway.
If you do, you're in trouble because the misnomer of crack of the bat is a bit late. He knew that ball was hit just a little bit better than he wanted it to be hit.
Rafael Santana takes ball 1, 1-0. Boy, he's been hot in the last 10 games. He's been hitting almost .450. And he has a 5-game hitting streak. Fouled away. This average of .284 might not impress you, but that's the highest his average has been in 3 full years in the major leagues. He's got it all together.
I tell you, .284 is rarefied air. That's an impressive average.
And he hits one down the left field line. Cruz, a late start, but the ball is going to land foul anyway. Jose didn't pick it up right away. For Santana, and it was one of the things that Davy Johnson used in the discussion about whether the ball is lively or not. And Davy Johnson said, well, Rafael Santana has 4 home runs. I rest my case. Well, that's what he has done in the past.
And if I was the defense, I'd say Jim Rice. I rest my case.
That's right, sure.
I guess I've been watching those North hearings too much.
I really think that it's not the ball. I think it is a lot of other things all put together. For instance, even the mound has changed, and I think that's one of the most overlooked things in the game. There's a drive down the left field line, and in there, Cruz over to get it, and Rafael Santana has pulled Mike Scott for a stand-up double. You know, when Bob Gibson and Don Drysdale and Juan Marichal were pitching, the mound was higher compared to the way it is now, and I think that the pitchers have lost a little something there. Then I think, without a doubt, the strike zone has changed. I mean, it was always armpits to kneecaps, no more. That's another reason it's changed. Then, of course, these hitters are swinging. No matter who you are, you swing 3-1 and 2-0. Whole bunch of things. Roller up along third, foul, and the count 0-1.
Claude Osteen, the pitching coach of the Phillies, did a recitation pretty much like you just did, and he said the only thing that's left is sandpaper. And that may be it.
One thing that is definitely going up is the major league overall batting average. And it also means that life is becoming much more difficult for pitchers. If you just go back to 1968, the major league batting average was .237. And right up through 1984, it was up over 260. 1-2. Gooden had a pretty good rip that time.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll get a fastball this time.
2 down, a run in on McReynolds' home run, and that was the swing of Dwight Gooden. He had a good shot at it.
Yes, he did. And Scott is shaking off his catcher. Start over again, he says. Pretty good tribute to Gooden's hitting ability.
Yeah. And that thing was an explosive fastball that just ran away on him.
That was a sailor.
6 strikeouts for Scott. 2-1 Mets. On a hot, muggy night in Houston, isn't it great to be in the great indoors of the Astrodome?
And we'll be here tomorrow. I love it here.
And
I don't care what the weather says outside. Clouds, we're here.
Danny Darwin against unbeaten Terry Leach, who's 8-0. And then, of course, Tuesday we'll be in the Oakland Coliseum for the All-Star game.
That'll be great. And the workout's going to be there with the home run hitting contest. And it'll be a great time in Oakland, too.
We sure hope you folks will pull up a chair and spend time with us again tomorrow and again on Tuesday. And, of course, every Saturday on the NBC Game of the Week. We're going to the bottom of the 4th inning, and the Mets and Dr. K leading 2-1. Now the Astros trying to bounce back with Kevin Bass, Jose Cruz, and Alan Ashby. The Astro pitching staff is still in the black at home. The team has hit 1 more home run than they have allowed. The Astros have hit 27. And McReynolds marked the 26th hit here against Houston. Because every time I think of home runs this year, I think of the Baltimore Orioles. Remember in May, they hit 58 home runs, and people were walking around, whoo, what a team. And in June, Baltimore pitching gave up 68 home runs. 0-1. 0-2.
Talk about home runs and all-star game. I'm kind of anxious to see young McGuire.
Oh, yeah. Mark McGuire, the Trojan from SC. 0-2 the count to Kevin Bass, then Cruz and Ashby. And that's lined to left, but McReynolds has a beat on it all the way. 1 down. Did you see that note in the paper talking about whether a player should play hurt or otherwise? Young Ed Correa of Texas, they checked him out, and he has played 8 weeks with a fractured shoulder.
That was hard to believe.
That's when they tell you what you don't know doesn't hurt you, right? He didn't know.
Yeah, but imagine it hurting.
Oh, boy. Jose Cruz, and a strike, 0-1. Great performer for the Astros through the years. He'll be 40 in August. Single to right field in the 2nd inning and set up the Astro run. Little nubber up along 3rd. It'll go foul, and the count 0-2.
When you talk about a fella getting down on the end of the bat, and you watch Cruz, he's got that bottom hand, 2 fingers off the bat. He's right down at the bottom, and he's got some tape. Look at his hands where below the bat handle, and you'll notice that there's some foam rubber. There it is. You can see it good there. And I asked him about that. He said it's not for a bone bruise. He had one, but it felt so good that he does it even though his hand feels good now.
0-2 the count to Jose. And down he goes. Strikeout number 3 for Dwight Gooden. By the way, I'd like to remind you folks we'll be selecting the NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game at the conclusion of the ball game. Probably be a very tough pick. 2 down in the 4th inning. And Alan Ashby, who walked in the 2nd inning, coming up. Ground ball right to Hernandez. He'll wave Gooden away, bring it over himself, and the Astros tiptoe through the 4th. The end of 4, 2-1 Mets. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Friends, this telecast presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Fifth inning, 2-1 in favor of the Mets. Len Dykstra, followed by Wally Backman, then Keith Hernandez. Dykstra flied to left, doubled to right, and scored on the single by Backman.
Through 4 innings, Scott has made 74 pitches, 45 strikes, 29 balls. That gives you an idea of what he's been doing. Gooden has made 56 pitches.
Yeah, that 1 inning, the 3rd inning, I guess, was the difference.
That's 7 pitches, you're right. And it was needed only 7 pitches in the 4th inning.
0-1 to count to Wally with Backman on deck. Fouled away, 0-2. The Mets struggling in 1-run games on the road. Their record is 6-11. And of course, they've lost all 3 here by 1 run. 0-2 to Dykstra. Yeah, that's really a turnaround. And then, as we say, when you subtract, you realize 6-11 on the road. A shot into left field, so Dykstra is 2 for 3. Mark of a good hitter when you look at your book and you realize he lined out to left, then he doubled to right and comes right back with a line drive to left again. He's really using the whole ballpark.
He opens up the field, and now they've got that combination going. It was so successful for him last year. Dykstra on base, Backman the hitter. He can punch that ball. He likes to drag the ball, and Dykstra, of course, can run. So that puts the defense on their toes. This is when the Mets make things happen, when they get these 2 guys in this position. Dykstra on and Backman in the batter's box.
The Astros, a very good defensive team, but they have made 1 error tonight. That was charged against the young center fielder, Gerald Young.
Dykstra's getting a pretty good lead, although it was cut down a half step. You can measure it by the dirt and when he gets on the artificial surface. Now he's back to his original lead. Good one.
He's stolen 11 bases and a good fake. You got to remember, that seems to be something that as the year goes along, more clubs are going to try and do, is put some heat on Mike Scott. 19 out of 20, the opposition has been that successful in stealing bases on Mike Scott.
He could have gone that last time,
Sure.
but he had a tremendous jump.
Yeah, I agree. 1 ball and no strikes. And he really had him, and he just got back.
Well, he threw it to the right. It's hard to do, but the wrong side of the bag. If he throws it to the right field side, he's got him. Watch him. He's leaning. Look where the throw is. And he's got to make that big sweep, and that gives him time to get back.
One thing that Scott's going to have to do to prevent runners from taking liberties, he's going to have to drag his left foot as opposed to bending that left knee. You just can't do that. And another close play. Very close.
Davis tried to save some time by backhanding it. Good base runners will not look for the pitcher's move. They'll look for the move towards home plate, not the pickoff move.
See that? See how the tag went by way of foul ground? 1,000 years ago, Branch Rickey, instructing young first baseman, said you will never pick the runner off if your tag goes by way of foul ground. Well, there was a classic case of it. 1 ball and no strikes.
That's one way of cutting the lead down and trying to take the spring out of the runner's legs, is to constantly throw over there. Which, Vin, you and I were talking about it. They talk about long games. That's one of the reasons. It's exciting to watch when you got the cat and mouse game, but it'll stretch out the game.
If you go to see the Cardinals, bring your lunch. And there goes Dykstra, swung on and missed. The throw, got him.
A perfect throw by Ashby, because the throw was to the second base side, and that makes it about an 87-foot throw. All they had to do at second base was catch it and drop the glove. He had a good jump, but it was a perfect throw by Ashby. Now, he really doesn't get into it. He kind of releases it in a hurry, almost flat-footed. Watch the throw where it is. Boom, right there.
And all those close plays at first base paid off, and the crowd is standing and getting all over Dykstra. They are just booing Dykstra all the way into the dugout. Lenny is now 11 for 15 this year. Ground ball wide to third. Denny Walling. 2 down. And I would think that Mike Scott and this crowd gets a particular lift over finally throwing out a runner. So that means the opposition is now 19 for 21 in stolen base attempts against Mike Scott.
He used the basic formula of throwing over there, and hoping to cut down the lead. He wasn't able to do that, but he may have taken some spring out of Dykstra, and Ashby's throw was a good one.
Here's Hernandez. They walked him intentionally. They used him as an escape hatch in the 3rd inning with a runner at 2nd. They weren't going to let him swing. They just took the bat right out of his hand. So the error by Young gave Scott a place to put Hernandez, and he turned around and struck out Carter. 2-0.
I asked about why he doesn't wear batting gloves, and Hernandez says, and kind of poetic what he said, my hand will be wed to the bat. He said, I like to feel that wood.
Strike. 2-1. Keith Hernandez struck out in the 1st inning, walked intentionally in the 3rd. We got a good one. Mets 2, Astros 1, top of the 5th inning. Boy, there was a little smoke on that one. 2-2.
A little extra. You can see why this guy's tough when he gives you that 90-plus fastball right here. Little tail to it. Now he's got you to go either way. Fastball or that split-fingered snake that he throws.
He's got a half a dozen scalps right now. 2-2. Line down the left field line. Foul. Down into the bullpen.
He rides that fastball, makes it tough. That was out of the strike zone, but you can't afford to take it.
The Astros scored in the 2nd inning. The Mets came back with a run in the 3rd to get even, and the Mets went out in front in the 4th. 2-1 New York. Roll the other way, foul. Oh, you have to be quick to pull that pitch. That thing down and away, and somehow he kind of hit it around the corner. Steve Ripley doing a little house cleaning. Two and two to Keith. Oh, bad pitch, and he went after it, and he can't believe it. He lost his bat, and he is strikeout number 7, and his hand is not wedded to the bat.
I didn't think he was ready. I'll tell you, I don't think he was ready for that pitch.
Well, he better be ready. It's 2-1 Mets at the end of 4.5.
Now Hernandez starts to get ready. Now watch a ball go flying by right there out of the foul ball came out of left field. Now he gets back in there. It looks like he isn't set. Watch him kind of dance around with his feet like he's not really set yet right here. And whoop, and oh boy, am I sorry I swung at that. He was really talking to himself, and he went to first base. Those are the kind of outs that you wish were not on national TV, and we give it a replay.
Well, he became strikeout number 7 by chasing a bad ball. Now it'll be Craig Reynolds, followed by Mike Scott, and then Gerald Young. 2-1 Mets. Reynolds flied to right in the 2nd inning. 0 for 1, came into the game hitting .265. For 2 months now, he's been pretty consistent, right at the .270 mark. And he figures to get more and more time playing shortstop and alternate occasionally with Bert Pena now that Dickie Thon is not here. 0-1. Craig, of course, was an all-star shortstop a few years ago at Seattle. One ball and 1 strike the count. And he hits a ground ball to the right side to Dykstra, who played that off his left hip. Excuse me, Backman. I'm still thinking about Dykstra and the throw out at second base. 1 down. And Mike Scott coming up. Mike Scott popped up in the 2nd inning. That was a A tough inning for Gooden, and then he came back with an even tougher inning in the third and survived it. And he has settled down since. Fisted foul out of play, and the count 0-1. On deck, Gerald Young.
That was a turning point because in the fourth inning, that's when he made the 7 pitches, and now he's ahead right here. He's starting ahead of the hitters.
0-1. In there. Dwight Gooden has struck out twice tonight against Mike Scott, so he would certainly like to return the favor, and right now he has him 0-2. And Scott is a strikeout hitter like that. That's the 4th strikeout for Dwight Gooden, and with 2 down, the batter will be Gerald Young, who struck out and then singled over Hernandez's glove. Stole second to third on Carter's overthrow and stayed there thanks to the superlative play made by Howard Johnson and the shot off Gooden's right ankle. So Young 1 for 2. 4-1.
The last 14 batters, Gooden is starting them off with a strike. He's falling behind here 1-0.
The Astros are very tough here in the Astrodome. Of course, the Mets can tell you that, but so can the whole league. The Astros have the same home record as the Cardinals, 26-16. 2-0. Fly ball to center. Dykstra is there. So a quiet inning. That's 9 in a row retired by Gooden. He leads 2-1, and here's another edition of Characters of the Game. Game 3 of this series between the Mets and the Astros, and we'll be right here to beam it to you at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Danny Darwin and Terry Leach join Marv Albert for his inside look into baseball. Then, of course, Tuesday, we'll be in the Oakland Coliseum for the All-Star Game. And next Saturday, some of you will see the Orioles and the Royals, and others will see the Cubs and the Giants at Candlestick Park. And by the way, for you good folks in San Francisco, next Saturday, it will be camera day at Candlestick starting at 11 a.m. You'll be out on the field taking pictures of your favorite Giants. The Giants started today 4 games back of the Cincinnati Reds. Into the 6th, 2-1 New York. Gary Carter, Darryl Strawberry, Kevin McReynolds. 4-1. Carter grounded to short in the second inning, struck out in the third. Gary hitting .239. One and one. Carter, for the last 9 years, has had a much higher average with men on base than when the bases are empty. And for the last 3, he's had 100 RBIs. 2-1. He is the #1 active National League player. He has 10 grand slams. But he's up against Mike Scott, who has struck out at least 1 batter in every inning, and the count now 2-2. Gary paid another honor, elected the National League starting catcher for the 7th straight year. Terry Kennedy getting that honor to represent Baltimore for the American League. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Fouled away. Gary with 11 home runs right now. He's hit 24 or more home runs each of the last 3 years, so he's almost on schedule. 2-2. Ball 3. Mike Scott with 7 strikeouts. His only walk was given to Carter, and that was an intentional walk. 3-2. Shot knocked down by Scott, who feeds Davis. Darryl Strawberry single to left and flied to right. Darryl is 1 for 2. Hitting .267. Right. How much does it help as the game progresses in your at-bats against a really good pitcher? Will you really begin to understand his stuff, what he has, how he's pitching to you? Does it help at all to say, well, this is my 3rd time now. I think I know exactly what he's doing to me?
Where it helps you is that you know what he's going to do in a particular situation, and especially if the situation repeats itself. I mean, if there's a man on third and nobody out, and you've been up there before and he pitches you a certain pattern, you come up in that same situation, then you're looking for particular...
But not now.
Not now. I wouldn't think it would help you at all.
1-1. And a looper into left center. That's a base hit. Cruz coming up to play it on the second hop. So Strawberry is 2 for 3. Both hits going the other way. And the one ball he tried to pull, he jammed and hit a fly ball to right. That's 7 hits for the Mets. And the batter will be Kevin McReynolds. Struck out in the 2nd inning and then hit the home run in the 4th.
It'll be interesting to see if Strawberry tests him once again. He was successful in the 2nd inning when he stole.
Darryl, right foot barely on the rug. So it's not a big lead. And there's another fly ball to left. Cruz looking up at it, and this one is gone. Kevin McReynolds hits his 2nd home run of the night. And McReynolds now breezing around the base paths, has 16 home runs and 49 runs batted in, as well as a 14-game hitting streak.
And that's about as emotional as Kevin gets. I mean, he's one of those guys that you can't really tell what he's done by looking at him. You saw him smile there, and that's about it. He's just one of those guys who just grinds it out.
That's what I think it was Bill Robinson who said about Kevin McReynolds. You don't have to worry about his attitude because he doesn't have any. He just plays. Ball 1. Bill's quite a guy, the first base coach for the Mets.
And I'm so happy he's going to manage down in Caracas this year, the Caracas Lions. He's paid his dues, and he wants to manage, obviously, in the big leagues, and so there'll be no excuse not to give him a chance.
Fly ball into right center field, and it's between and in the gap and in the seats. Howard Johnson hits one up the alley into the right center field seats. The 3rd home run allowed by Mike Scott in this game. 12 home runs for the year. And again, you bring up, at no time tonight have the Mets asked the plate umpire to look at a ball. There's been no talk of stuffing, etc., etc., etc. Thank you, Yul Brynner. 5-1 in favor of the Mets. For the Howard Johnson Marching and Chowder Society. That was his 17th home run. Line drive, base hit to center.
Last 3 hitters have hit the first pitch. Now, you're going to have to do something. If nothing else, call time and go out and talk, and at least take a roll call and see if you still got 8 guys behind you. Les Moss, the coach of the Astros, is coming out right now.
And there's Dave Meads loosening up in the bullpen. So what had been a meeting of 2 top pitchers, and the pitching duel expected, and the pitching duel lasted for 5 innings. But now the Mets have flexed their muscles. They've hit 3 home runs, 2 by Kevin McReynolds. So Hal Lanier, grim-faced, as well he should be when his ace is pushed around. Remember, we mentioned at the very start of the game that Mike Scott had allowed 4 earned runs in back-to-back starts, that he hadn't had that happen since his first 2 starts of last year. Well, this is his first game at home since he pitched a 3-hitter. And with that little slump on the road, He gives up 5 tonight. That's a lot of runs when you have the stature of a Mike Scott. And here now is Dwight Gooden sitting on top of a 5-1 lead with 1 out. He has struck out twice. The bunt is down. Glenn Davis will have to throw to Bill Doran, so the sacrifice works. Gooden advances his man. And that will bring up Lenny Dykstra, the 7th man to come up in the inning, as Santana waits to be picked up at second base. So Gooden gets his man over. Lenny Dykstra flied to left, double to right, single to left, and brought the house down on him when he was thrown out in the 5th inning. One Mets, 2 out, top of the 6th. Mike Scott doesn't figure in the batting in the bottom of the 6th inning. He would be the 8th man due up. So Meads is down there in the bullpen. He has to be rushed in. 1-0. Ground ball hard into right field, base hit. Here comes Santana. Bass with a pretty good arm, but the throw is offline. Down to second goes Dykstra. 6-1 New York. And they're all over Scott here in the 6th inning. Dykstra 3 for 4. That's 11 hits and 6 runs. In checking in the books after McReynolds and Johnson hit back-to-back home runs, the first time this year that has happened to Mike Scott, and he's done. Dave Meads is being called in. So Mike Scott is driven to cover as the Mets come up with a big 4 in the top of the 6th and lead 6-1. Left-hander Dave Meads coming in to pick up the pieces and try and get Wally Backman, who is forced to hit right-handed now. Ball 1. Dave Meads with a record of 5-1. It's hard to believe that he's that successful because his earned run average is about 6. He beat the Mets on consecutive nights in the middle of May. 1 ball, no strikes. He might be a little rusty. He pitched 1 inning on Monday in Montreal. There are 3 left-handers on the Astros staff, but Deshays and Nepper are starting pitchers, so Dave Meads has to do the job. Chopper to the left is shortstop, flagged by Reynolds behind the bag. High throw. Davis missed the bag. Throws late to the plate and wild, and the run scores. And Backman will hold.
Lenny Dykstra did a great piece of running, got some good coaching, but he kept right on coming, and Davis did a double take at first base, and Ashby, now watch this play, it's high, and Davis will field for the bag, misses it, now realizes now the double pump is just a bit too late. And Dykstra coming all the way.
There might be 2 errors on the play. We're waiting to see.
He's coming. Here he comes. Look at here. He's gone.
They are giving Reynolds the error. But, of course, since Dykstra began the play at first base, they could even have 2 errors. Give Reynolds an error, allowing Backman to get on, and then Davis a late throwing error. But since Backman stayed at first, they're just going to lay the body at Reynolds' doorstep. So Dykstra scores his 2nd time tonight. Reynolds draws an error, and the Mets now are up in the clouds, leading 7-1. Backman held on by Davis. 7-11 for New York. The Astros 1 run, 2 hits, 2 errors. 1-1 to Hernandez. Keith struck out, walked intentionally, and then you remember he chased a bad one and lost the bat when he struck out in the 5th inning. Meads pitching against the Mets. That's quite a combination because he's from Montclair, New Jersey. Two and one to Keith Hernandez. Came in on the hands. Hernandez fouled it off. 2-2. So the Mets, who battled back last night only to lose on the home run by Bill Doran, have really opened it up against Mike Scott, who was trying to win his 11th, and they hung a 7-1 score on Scott. Kevin McReynolds, of course, with 2 home runs and 3 RBIs, is the leader of the pack. Curveball, a big chopper to Doran, and that's that. But that is a big high 5. And at the end of 5.5 innings, Mets 7 and the Astros 1, and Mike Scott took a hike. Couple of important games. You see, Montreal beat Cincinnati, so Houston very interested in that. Meanwhile, the Giants leading St. Louis 2-1, and the Cardinals have won 8 in a row. And the Mets are very interested in that one. The Cubs knocked off the Dodgers to complete a game from yesterday, and then they got in trouble again and had one suspended because of rain and darkness, and they have to finish that tomorrow.
Listen, Tommy Lasorda has been around baseball a long time, but he's never had a longer road trip than this one.
To dust off a Lasorda line, I called Dial a Prayer, and they put me on hold.
Yeah, what his other banker, when he called suicide prevention, and they said, hey, it's a good idea, do it.
1 ball and 1 strike to Bill Doran. Then Denny Walling and Glenn Davis. Fouled away. 1-2 the count to Doran, who flied to center and struck out, hitting .274. Good and tough anyway, but when he's standing on top of a 7-1 lead, you really have your hands full. Two and 2. Dwight has struck out 4. He's retired 9 in a row, and he has walked 2 and allowed just 2 hits and a run. A drive into deep right field, and it looks like Doran is taken in deep. It's gone. For Dwight Gooden, that is the 4th home run that he has allowed, all with the bases empty.
Well, this particular time, you can see he was trying to stay away from the base on balls, and he was going to lay the good fastball in there, and Doran just went after it and wouldn't let him do it.
So Gooden is leading 7-2, and the batter is Denny Walling. Doran with 12 home runs. That's a club record. In fact, he's getting close to the club record. Joe Morgan and Bill Doran. A club record 14 home runs. And with a half a year to go, he figures to shatter it. All right, here's Walling, and good and ready to go back to work. 7-2 New York, 6th inning. Right. Walling grounded out in the 1st inning, and then it was Walling who hit the shot off Gooden's leg, deflected to Howard Johnson. Johnson made a great play in the 3rd inning, and that really turned Gooden around. Gooden then went on to retire everybody until Doran's home run. 0-2 the count. He's putting the heat on the hitter. 16 of 21 first pitch strikes. It's like you walk up there and you'd inherited a strike on the scoreboard. Time.
Get that first pitch over, and that just not only puts a lot of doubt in the hitter's mind, it puts you in control to no end.
1-2 the count. Ground ball wide to 3rd. Johnson is up with it. Shoots him down. 1 away. That brings up Glenn Davis, who flied to left and popped up 0 for 2. It's interesting. I'm sure it will be lost in the shuffle, but if this game continues to go this way, the play by Howard Johnson will be overlooked with all the home runs catching the attention in the headline. But that play made on the shot off Gooden's leg just seemed to stop everything and turn it around.
Well, that whole inning, remember, men on third, nobody out, and 2 balls, no strikes, Doran, Walling, and Davis.
1-1.
Well, I enjoyed a visit with this youngster. We're talking about hitting, Ben, and he gives Gene Kleins a lot of credit for helping him, and he's got a pretty good idea in that batter's box, I'll tell you.
1-1 to count to Glenn. Ground foul outside of third.
Ironically enough, it's something that Pete Rose told him. He said really helped him. He said, Pete Rose says, look for the fastball, and you can adjust for the curveball because your mind can slow down, but it can't speed up.
Well, I tell you, when it helped him, he hit a 3-run home run to beat Steve Bedrosian. And that snapped Bedrosian's record of 13 saves in 13 straight games. Ground foul. And, of course, knowing how hard Bedrock throws, his mind was speeding up, and he probably hit the fastball to do it.
Well, he looks for that fastball. That's what he says he looks for. And when you stop to think about it, your mind can slow down in that batter's box, but it sure can't speed up. So, once again, Pistol Pete Rose comes up with them.
1-2, the count to Glenn Davis. 7-2 Mets. Bottom of the 6th inning. 2-2. Davis had a big year last year. 31 home runs, 101 runs batted in. And a little dunker, and there's Backman. So Davis pops it up, 2 down in the 6th inning. And Kevin Bass, who walked and scored a run and flied to left. Kevin 0 for 1, hitting .283. Check. They're going to look at third. No swing, says Dick Stello. Bass is a pretty good hitter from either side of the plate, but last year he really wore out left-hand pitchers. He had 80 hits and 30 of them were extra bases. He's hitting .283. You talk about consistency. He came into the game hitting .284 from either side of the plate. 2-1. He has 8 home runs, 4 from either side. 48 RBIs, half each side. The only difference, he strikes out a little more left-handed. Again, to repeat, Dwight Gooden has struck out 4. Big chopper to shortstop. Santana waiting for the hop, then gets rid of it in a hurry. So 1 run, 1 hit, the home run by Bill Doran. And at the end of 6, Dwight Gooden heads for the dugout, leading 7-2. We'll be back after these messages from your local station. One of the great moments out of the past.
And Ben, he's probably over there in Mesa watching it. Carl Hubble struck out 5 future Hall of Famers. There's another fellow I'm sure watching this game in Arizona. I talked to him this week. Wes Westrom, your good buddy.
Oh, and how? Wonderful guy, good catcher.
You got a special nickname for him, tells me.
I always call him Money. Big breaking ball for a strike to Gary Carter to get us underway into the 7th. 7-2 Mets. Gary grounded to short, struck out, hit back to the box. He's a little hungry, too. The Mets have had a pretty good attack. Hernandez is 0 for 3. Carter is 0 for 3. And Gooden is 0 for 2. The others have at least 1 hit, and of course Dykstra has 3, and McReynolds has 2 home runs. 1-2. We're going to try to give you an update on American League scores when we have an opportunity, having just flashed the National League. 1-2 to count. Breaking ball. Dave Meads picking up for Mike Scott. Scott went 5 2/3, charged with 7 runs and 11 hits on a night that saw him strike out 7. The Mets jumped on him. A drive to center. Gerald Young is there. 1 down here in the 7th. To duck in the American League now. Remember, the Yankees leading Toronto by 3 at the start of the day, and they're leading the White Sox. Toronto winning big 7-0. Minnesota leading Kansas City by 2 games, and they're leading Baltimore by a run. Darryl Strawberry against Dave Meads. Breaking ball strike. Darryl is hitting just under 250 against left-handers, but he has hit 9 home runs against them. 9 of his 21. Breaking ball.
They make him give ground. There's no question about it. But if you hang it inside, that's the reason for the 9 home runs. But you saw him kind of flinch there.
One of the great lines by Roy Campanella of what a sidearm breaking ball will do to you. Whoops, there's the fastball. But Campy said it gives you the jelly leg. And in Strawberry's instance, it's hard to keep that right leg in there. You just want to bail out.
I used to hear players talk to it and call it gutless. Stay here with me.
1-2. Fastball, check swing, foul. The Astros scored in the 2nd inning. The Mets got the tying run in the 3rd. The Mets got a run in the 4th, and then the Mets dismantled the place with 5 in the 6th. The Astros came back with a home run by Doran, but right now it's just a whimper of protest, and it's 7-2 Mets. Breaking ball away, so he's given him 4 pitches, 3 curveballs and 1 brushback fastball just to keep him off the plate. Dave Meads from the Garden State, Montclair, New Jersey. Breaking ball.
Now, you know that the entire body was not there with that swing.
No.
I mean, he started and the legs left. Now, watch him. Oh, now, he'll reach and just does foul it off. And, boy, I can understand that. Stay there, right leg, is what Darryl is wanting to do, but it's difficult.
2-2. Way outside. So Darryl Strawberry working 3-2 on Dave Meads and vice versa. 1 out, 7th inning, 7-2 New York. The Mets beginning tonight 10.5 games back, trying to gain some ground on St. Louis. 3-2. Fastball hit up the middle and into center field. I'm really surprised.
Well, 3-2. You're not going to walk him, and a percentage swings to the hitter. You got to throw him a strike. That was the difference. 2-2. He kind of bailed out. 3-2. He hung in a little bit.
He bailed so much. He now has 3 hits, and that would be a dozen hits for the Mets. And here comes Kevin McReynolds. Struck out, homered in the 4th, homered in the 6th. So a 2-home-run game for Kevin. It's the 3rd of his career, but it's the first time he's had one this year. If you're wondering, he has never hit 3 in a game. Way out in front. 0-1.
And if that had been a fastball, it might have been his 3rd one, because he jumped on the first pitch. This was an off-speed curveball. So they cataloged it and went to the off-speed.
16 home runs, 49 RBIs for Kev. He waited on the breaking ball and thumbed it foul. Grammatically, that's not correct. but in baseball, they are always talking about waiting on the pitch. And he waited and waited and then had to fight it off. If you're a trivia buff, he hit 26 home runs last year and then was traded to a World Series champion. That's more home runs than any player ever hit who was then acquired by a series champion. A one-hopper by the diving third baseman Denny Walling. So McReynolds with 2 home runs and a single. The Mets with runners at first and second, and Howard Johnson, who will probably be the unsung hero, but that's exactly what he is coming up.
That curveball was so slow that McReynolds, he had to wait for it to get up there and just kind of poked it in the left field. He wasn't fooled at all.
Rocky Childress, big right-hander, begins to throw now in the Astro bullpen. Johnson grounded to short, flied to center, and then unloaded in the 6th inning against Mike Scott. 0-1. Johnson hitting .269, and there's Rocky. Personnel changes made by the Astros. Childress coming up. Young taking over for Hatcher, and Robbie Wine was called up to replace Ron Reynolds as a backup catcher. Chopper to third, Walling down to Doran, back to Davis. 5-4-3, 2 hits and a man left. It is still 7-2 Mets. Here's another edition of the 7th inning stretch. Nolan Ryan is 40 years old. He makes his home in Alvin, Texas. He's a Texan born and bred. His record would tell you he's having a bad year. If you just looked at the numbers, you'd see that he has 4 wins and 10 losses. But when you realize the tough games he has lost this year, with any kind of a break, he could be 10-4. And of course, the proud possessor of 5 no-hitters. With the Angels in 1973, he no-hitted Kansas City and Detroit. In 74, he nailed Minnesota. In 75, Baltimore. Then he moved over to the National League and picked up number 5 against the Dodgers. What a man.
I wonder if he's thinking about the split finger, because he had that baseball in his hand and just kind of fingered it and spreading the index finger and the middle finger.
Here's Jose Cruz, who promptly bangs it into left field, and here we go in the bottom of the 7th inning.
If you're wondering, Gooden has made 85 pitches. Well, when I think of that, and I think of Red Barrett winning the game, 9 innings, 2-0, and made 58 pitches.
Yeah, hard to believe.
I saw him at the Old Timers game, talked to him, asked him about it. He said, I just got the ball and threw it and got him out. I said, well, that makes pitching pretty simple. He looks great, by the way.
Gooden has completed 2 of 7. And after the base hit by Cruz, here is Ashby. Walked and grounded out. The Astros have 4 hits. Ball 1 off speed. Interestingly enough, of the 4 hits for the Astros, a leadoff single by Young in the 3rd inning. This leadoff single by Cruz in the 7th. The leadoff home run by Doran in the 6th. The other hit was a 1-out single by Cruz in the 2nd inning. Ball 2. Two balls and no strikes. Ground ball down to shortstop. Santana on the bag. Double play to Hernandez. So Rafael gets the put out and the assist. Cruz is erased, and just like that, 2 out.
Boy, nothing lets the air out of the balloon quicker than play like this. Right up the middle. Santana takes his time, steps on the bag, a little flip throw, and easy 2.
Well, there was a lot of motion on that pitch, too. It was a pretty good sinker, which is one reason why Ashby hit down on it and hit the ground ball. So Gooden here in the 7th inning is still throwing very well, even though he's not going to get headlines for striking out a lot of people. He has 4. Terry Poole is out on deck as Craig Reynolds Takes ball 1. In Gooden's 7 previous starts, he went 9 and beat Philadelphia, and he went 9 and beat the Cardinals. Fouled away. The only time he had a bad time this year, Cincinnati sent him out on his shield at the end of 3 innings. Both of those complete games were at Shea. And the Mets have scored better than 5 runs per game in his 7 starts, and they've gotten him 7 tonight. Right. The fans are taking a chapter out of the World Series in Boston, and they are starting that dirge-like chant of Darryl, but it doesn't really have any meaning here. And it pretty much was turned off, especially when Ashby hit into the double play. Check swing foul, and it's still 1-2. Did you ever have the crowd boo you? I mean, did you ever feel everyone's attention was on you?
Yes.
What'd you do? Something awful?
No, I stayed at second base, and like a lot of players, and wondered why. I was doing the best I could.
You were at second base, and there was a ground ball or something?
No. I hit a double.
Oh. Ground ball to the right side. The backman, he got fooled by the bounce. No play. Second Mets error.
If you ever wonder about a ball playing a player, there it was, and Wally knows that he's kind of disgusted. He just didn't get down. That's an error. It went all over him, and it wasn't hit that hard.
No. It came, however, after the double play ball, but he's still hot. I mean hot. And Terry Poole coming up. 7-2 in favor of the Mets here in the 7th. Terry Poole hitting 200. 9 for 30 as a pinch hitter with 5 runs batted in. From Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Always been a good hitter. There have been rumors that Poole would be traded, but he carries a very sizable contract wherever he goes.
He was taking extra batting practice tonight. He was out working.
In the dirt, pushed out in front of the plate by Carter. Holding, of course, trailing by 5 runs. Reynolds isn't about to gamble. 7 runs, 13 hits, 2 errors for the Mets. 2 runs, 4 hits, 2 errors for the Astros. Dwight Gooden. Mike Scott followed by Dave Meads. Poole has been with them Astros since '77. High chopper to Santana. He'll go the long way. No runs, a hit, an error, a man left. And at the end of 7, it is 7-2 in favor of the Mets and Dwight Gooden. Frank Tate's talent brought him an Olympic gold medal in '84, but as a pro, he's been a late bloomer, undefeated, and I guess some would say untested. Well, he'll step into the ring on NBC Sports World Sunday to face Troy Darrell, a controversial loser to Michael Olajide on Sports World in May. Now, a win would strongly boost the chances of either fighter in the hunt for the world middleweight crown. So tune in, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:30 in Los Angeles, Sunday for NBC Sports World. Rocky Childress in his 7th game. Good ERA of 2. And he'll be pitching to Santana, followed by Gooden and Dykstra.
He's got a good baseball name, Rocky Childress.
Oh, yeah. Ground ball to the right side to Bill Doran. 1 away. Santana had a single and a double, rolls out. And now Dwight Gooden coming up. If you are not keeping score and you wonder about the Astros when they come up in the bottom of the 8th, they'll have Gerald Young, Bill Doran, and Denny Walling. Dwight struck out twice, sacrificed in the 6th inning, and that helped because when Dykstra singled, Santana, who was pushed up a notch, scored. Look out for a throw to first. Nope, the pop. Too much of a bounce.
Were you in Brooklyn when I think it was a no-hitter was saved? Mel Queen hit a ball to right field and Ferrillo got him.
Ferrillo threw him out.
Yeah.
Embarrassed?
Oh. Don't ask me.
You were never. Did anybody try?
Oh, did they try?
How about that for a lie?
I tell you, boy, it is embarrassing to see him next to you. Put out 9-3.
Whoa. With one out here in the 8th inning, Dwight Gooden joins the fun with a base hit. So now, would you believe, the only fellows without a hit are Keith Hernandez and Gary Carter. 1 ball and no strikes. The count to Lenny Dykstra. Fly to left, double to right, single to left, single to right. Ground ball to the hole, smothered by Doran on his knees, throws him out.
Major league play. The major leaguer not only stops the ball, he's not satisfied to knock it down. Watch him just knock that ball down. Smothers it, corrals it, and on his knees, still able to get enough on it to get Dykstra, who was hustling down the line.
Fine play by Bill Doran. With 2 out, Dwight Gooden is now at second base, and Wally Backman, the hitter, struck out, single to center, grounded out, and reached on an error. Bouncer up the middle, flagged by Reynolds, who gets him. A couple of nice plays to bail out Rocky Childress at the end of 7 1/2. 7-2 Mets with the Astros coming up. It's not really inside baseball, it's inside your hat. It is the old rally cap. Down by runs late in the game, turn your cap inside out. Sitting quietly with his back against the dugout wall is Dave Smith. Smith was perfect in saves and opportunities until last night. He came in with the Mets down 3-1, let it get away to the sense the Mets tied, but then Doran gave him his first win of the year, 1-0. His earned run average is 3/4 of a run. He has been brilliant, and yet, with capital letters, he was not put on the All-Star team by Davy Johnson. And down here in Houston, they think that's heresy. Gerald Young, Bill Doran, and Dennis Walling. They're going to check at third. No swing, says Dick Stello.
I like Dave Smith's line. He said a win's better than a loss, but for me, a save is better than a win.
Especially the way Jim DeShays pitched last night. 1 ball and no strike. In there. The Astros have 22 come from behind wins. In fact, not too long ago, they were down by 5 and came back to beat San Diego. They're down now by 5. 7-2 in the 8th inning. Ball 2, 2-1. Gerald Young struck out, singled off Hernandez's glove, and flied to center. Two balls, 1 strike. Late on a fastball, fouled it off third, down the line, back into the seat. 2-2. Don't forget, tomorrow we have a date, same place, same team. Danny Darwin and Terry Leach. Leach, would you believe, the surprise of the year, I guess. 8 wins, no losses. Danny Darwin is 5-5. Well, they tangle tomorrow. Hope you'll join us. Little foul out of play. Dwight Gooden trying to win his 6th. He came in 5-2, trying to beat the Astros for the 8th time. We're discounting the league championship series now. 8th time in regular play. Fouled away. So Young is up there hacking. Two and 2 to Gerald. The Astros have been struggling lately trying to generate some runs. In fact, they suffered the indignity of back-to-back shutouts at home with Montreal. Bob Sabra and Floyd Yeomans shut him down.
Just watching Young bat, Vin, that close-up when he holds that bat, I couldn't help but think. Remember in the old days they said always hold that label so you could read it?
Oh, yeah.
Look at him now.
2-2. And I guess it was to finish that story. Wasn't it Henry Aaron? Somebody said to him, hey,
Yogi.
Oh, was it Yogi? Got the label up? And he said, I ain't reading up here.
Well, they also made special bats for Yogi because he would turn it. So what they would do would put the label on the opposite side. So when he turned it, you could see it, but the good wood was the other way.
3-2 to Gerald Young. And he walked him. And, of course, leading by 5, that's the last thing he wanted to do. It's the third pass he's given up. That means the leadoff man has been getting aboard on him a little bit. And remember also, Davy Johnson has to think about Gooden running the bases in the top of the 8th inning. And so is Mel Stottlemyre. 7-2 Mets, Doran, Walling, and Davis coming up. Doran has flied to center, struck out, and then homered in the 6th inning. Doran has 12 home runs, 7 of them as a left-handed batter. And there goes Gerald Young, and the throwdown, he's stolen it easily. Wow! Trailing by 5.
There just is that book that everybody talked about, I think has been banned in the major leagues because it was just a case of, hey, he must have the green light and he's going to go. He stays away from the double play. True, but you're trailing by 5.
I tell you one thing, do you see that picture, how high that Gooden's leg, his left leg came up? If you're an alert base stealer who's stolen 40 in AAA, I don't care if it's Dwight Gooden or anybody else. You see him raise that left leg that high, he just instinctively took off.
He's got the green light to run, and he certainly can. And as I say, he stays away from the double play. That's a big thing.
And how? 1-1 to count to Bill Doran.
I think a lot of managers are saying, hey, if they take you for granted, just go on down.
Yeah, what's that story? If they're going to give it to you, take it.
Take it. Take whatever they give you.
1-1 to Bill Doran. Dennis Walling on deck. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Mets scoring 5 in the 6th. Put an albatross around Lanier's neck and made it 7-1. And the Astros came back with just 1, so it's 7-2. On the corner. 1-2. Gooden has struck out 4, walked 3. Fly ball to left field. Kevin McReynolds is there. Young to the bag, but then decides he'll hold on. But he was going to make McReynolds throw. So Doran flies out, 1 away. Young holding, and Walling coming up. Walling has grounded to Backman. Then he slashed the ball off Gooden's leg, the play of the night by Howard Johnson. And then last time up, he grounded to Johnson. (7-2) Mets, bottom of the 8th inning, 1 away. Ground ball to the right side. Backman is there. So 2 down as Young moves over to 3rd. And the batter will be Glenn Davis. Davis slid to left, hopped up twice. No, he has not hit the ball hard. 0 for 3, hitting .282. He brings a big bat up there. 15 home runs, 49 runs batted in. the hands, and he pulled it back a third. Johnson has the arm to throw in the dirt, and Davis is aboard as Young scores. So it is 7-3 in favor of the Mets.
Well, that's what the stolen base did. It manufactured a run. Johnson, he's got the ball. Looks like he's got plenty of time. Everything in his favor. A long throw, but he certainly has the arm to do it. But the throw is just low. Just didn't get there.
He might have had too much time, you know, sometimes. And he knows Davis is a slow runner. He might have aimed. That's the third Mets error. So surprisingly, a world champion team, and normally they just don't give away things, but the Mets have been given away all year. That means they've made 80 errors. 8-0. Strike. Too many unearned runs, putting an added burden on any pitcher, even a good one. But White leading 7-3, working on Kevin Bass, who was walked, flied to left, grounded to short. Had 5 errors in the game. Hard ground ball to Santana. The short way to Backman. They get the force on Davis, and the Astros settle for the run. And at the end of 8, the Mets 7 and the Astros 3. Hope you'll join us tomorrow. Game 3 of the series between the Mets and the Astros, 1:30 Eastern Time. Danny Darwin and Terry Leach join Marv Albert for his inside look into baseball and settle back and spend the afternoon with us. Mets and Astros tomorrow, right here. A strike to Keith Hernandez. So he and Gary Carter on the outside of the candy store looking in. The Mets 7 runs, 14 hits. But Carter is 0 for 4. Hernandez 0 for 3. Tell you what, when your number 3 and 4 hitter go blank and you get 7 runs and 14 hits, you have a pretty good ball club.
Everything's got to taste pretty good for you if you're the manager.
Doug Sisk getting in a little throwing in the Mets bullpen. 0-2. Busted bat, a little jammer and a blooper, and Doran will backhand it. And so Hernandez a long 0 for 4. 1 down. There's Doug Sisk. Tell you one thing that's a shock, if you haven't seen the Mets in a while, and then you do a little studying and you look at what's happening with McDowell and Orozco. And you're talking about 2 premier relief pitchers from last year. Orozco is 1-6 with an earned run average over 5. McDowell is over 4.5 in an earned run average. But here's a couple of shocking notes. Ground ball wide to third, flagged by Walling. Long throw takes care of Carter, so he goes 0 for 5. So Carter and Hernandez combined go 0 for 9. But to get back to McDowell, would you believe the opponents are hitting .325 against McDowell, and they're hitting .300 against Orozco? I find that hard to believe. That is the new band, and you can see it says "Say No to Drugs." That's Darryl Strawberry's band, and with the picture on it, we'll take another shot. It's a good idea. Look at that, Joe.
It is. That's great. Kevin Bass, I had one of his too. Say No to Drugs. There you see it at the bottom. That's the best idea in the world.
In there, 0-2. And I assume until I hear otherwise, it was the brainchild of a youngster in Los Angeles.
James Mims.
Yep. His dad works at Dodger Stadium, and James exposed to baseball and came up with a whale of an idea. 0-2 to Darryl. He asked me if I wanted one.
What'd you tell him?
I told him I don't sweat.
He asked me if I wanted one. I said, yeah, I sweat a lot.
1-2 to Darryl Strawberry.
It's true, though. You don't. 3 things you don't do. You know that? You don't sweat, you don't get your hair messed up, and you don't stutter.
Yeah, you're neat.
I'm 1 out of 3.
Ain't bad. 2-2 to Strawberry with 2 out of the ninth. 7-3 Mets. Cruz, Ashby, and Reynolds will be due up in the bottom of the ninth. 0-3.
Hey, Ben, I see Vern Hoshite down the bullpen. I just got to tell you this. Vern's been around. I remember I broke in with Vern. He's the bullpen coach down there. 1942, and he's talking about meal money, which the old guys do. He said his first year meal money, he could put his meal money in a watch crystal. It was 75 cents a day.
Oh, wow. 75 cents. Ball 4 to Strawberry.
That was Class C. Western Association.
75 cents.
You can't get change for a quarter for 75 cents.
Well, he was 65 years old on the 1st of April. And you're talking, well, 1941. He was playing in Norfolk the summer prior to Pearl Harbor.
Where was he in 42? Joplin.
42? Joplin, yeah.
That's where I ran up against him.
Vern Hochschild.
Good little catcher. And a better guy. What a guy.
He said it was a good winter for me. Last year, I accidentally shot myself while hunting. This year, I made it through without any accidents. 1 ball and no strikes to Kevin McReynolds. Ball 2. Boy, Kevy's had a night. Came in here with a 13-game hitting streak, and he struck out in the 2nd inning. And then homered in the 4th, hit a 2-run home run in the 6th, and singled in the 7th. Strawberry is not on the rug, so he doesn't look like he's going anywhere. 2-1. Top of the 9th. 7-3 New York. Trying to win their first game of the year here in the Dome. Fouled away. The Astros have won 4 of the previous 5, and we'll pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC television network.
Proud to call it home. WTHR Channel 13, Indianapolis.
So deuces wild here. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out on number 22. Kevin McReynolds. Roll foul. Davy Johnson. He and John McNamara will get together again come Tuesday night in Oakland's Coliseum. The All-Star game. Ball 3. (7-3) Mets, top of the 9th. And time, Doug Harvey, the first base umpire, is calling time. No one has heard him for now. Now they do. He's checking the count. Glenn Davis asked, and now Davis is off the bag. Not going to hold. 3-2. Strawberry goes, and it's ball 4. So with 2 out, walks given up to Strawberry and McReynolds will bring up Howard Johnson, and Rocky Childress, who survived the 8th inning, remember, after giving up a base hit to Gooden on a fine play by Dorn and another good play by Reynolds. Now he's in a little trouble. Howard Johnson grounded to short, flied to center, homered in the 6th inning, and then hit into a double play in the 7th, but made the key defensive play of the night way back in the 3rd. Check swing and a roller, and he fell down trying to leave the box. So the out recorded at first. So Howard Johnson got tangled up and never got out of the chute. And at the end of 8.5, Mets 7 and the Astros 3. The Mets leading 7-3 as we go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Dwight Gooden is 3 outs away from his 6th victory and his 8th straight against the Astros. Standing in his way, Cruz, Ashby, and Reynolds. Roller up along first base, fair ball, and 1 away. Tonight's game has been brought to you by Miller High Life. Miller, made the American way since 1855. By Toyota, looking out for you has made Toyota #1 in compact truck sales. By now Kellogg's Pro Grain Iron Man food. And by the Prudential, offering a full range of insurance and other financial services. You want to know something? If you've been with us tonight, you have seen 4 home runs in our game, right? 3 by the Mets, 1 by the Astros. Right. There have been 35 home runs hit in the major leagues today, and of course they're just starting on the West Coast. 35. 0-2. Ashby has walked, grounded out, hit into a double play.
McGuire probably hit 26 of them. That's a lot of home runs.
Yeah, 35, and still plenty of precincts to be heard from in the dirt. One and two the count to Alan Ashby. They have records on almost everything, so to put that in perspective, 35 home runs in major leagues today, and you're going to say, ha-ha, the rabbit ball. Oh, really? In 1962, there were 54 home runs hit in one day. Fouled away.
All right.
Yeah. Who? Not me. Not you.
I think that 4 home runs in this park before 10 o'clock on July 10th is the most home runs
You're not
ever
kidding.
had.
Let's just see how many. They don't have that many. Check swing. It's going to cost him a strike. So Alan Ashby tried to hold up, couldn't do it. That's 5 strikeouts for Dwight Gooden. Dick Stello down at third. So Dwight is 1 out away from dragging this thing back into the clubhouse. Craig Reynolds has flied to right, grounded out, aboard on an error. It is a little surprising to have 4 home runs in a game. There were 52 home runs hit here in 42 games, and now all these in one game. Slow roller to Santana, a bouncer, and it gets by Hernandez, and so safely aboard is Reynolds. Let's see how they rule it, and they are going to give Santana an error. So the Mets commit 4 errors in the game on a check swing. That's the 4th.
Tough play for Santana because it really didn't get out there in a hurry. He has to throw it on the run. Never really had good control, as you can see him kind of juggle that ball, and bounces in front of Hernandez, who just can't come up with it.
So Rafael Santana joins Wally Backman, Gary Carter, and Howard Johnson. 4 Mets errors, and Davy Lopes will now come up and hit for Rocky Childress. Lopes has a bad right elbow. You might see he has some tape and a band on it. He can swing the bat, but throwing the ball is kind of a painful as well as hazardous experience because the injury has to do with the ulnar nerve. Hitting 200, 0 for 5 this year, and you know the elbow's bothering him. Ball 1. Dwight Gooden picked up his 5th strikeout here in the 9th inning. His 4th strikeout was the pitcher in the 5th inning. So he hasn't really been blowing the hitters away, but he's sure getting the job done. 2-0 to Lopes. Interestingly enough, the Mets commit 4 errors. Only 1 brought in a run. That was when Gerald Young scored on a throwing error charged to Howard Johnson. 2 balls and no strikes to the pinch hitter Lopes. Ground ball up the middle. That'll be a base hit for Davy. Reynolds will hold at second.
That base hit's got to get the bullpen going because you've got that Tyne running the on-deck circle.
And the bullpen will be going, and Roger McDowell is going to be the first up down there along with Jesse Orozco. That's Orozco, and McDowell is right behind him. There he is. They are now switching because it was a check swing, and that makes it so tough for the infielder to react. Consequently, Rafael had to hurry the throw. They are changing it to a single for Craig Reynolds. So the Mets have committed 3 errors and not 4. Ball 1. Gerald Young has struck out, singled off Hernandez's glove, fly to center and walk. He has 2 stolen bases tonight. 2 down in the 9th, 7-3 New York. I guess the one shot the crowd wants to see is the on-deck hitter, Bill Doran. Doran has 1 for 4, a home run. But the veteran second baseman has a rookie in front of him, and Dwight Gooden trying to finish him off. Ball 2. You wonder why the crowd comes alive. There's an extra reason, and Philip Wiley would have loved to live and see it. On the scoreboard, they flash the word noise, and immediately the crowd reacts. Big Brother says noise, let there be noise.
I mean, Yankee Stadium, they got a rally meter.
Yeah.
According to the noise, the pointer goes up.
They used to have hands clapping on the screen in center field here. I haven't seen that in a while. 2-1 to Gerald Young. Ball 3. Dwight has walked 3, but 2 of them are way back in the second inning. 3-1 to Gerald Young. And he walked in. The bases are loaded. Davy Johnson heading for the mound. And they want Orozco. They're going to turn Bill Doran around. So Jesse Orozco is coming in. Dwight Gooden is going out. He can't lose. He can only win or have nothing to do with it. We'll be back. A somewhat frustrated Dwight Gooden. He gave it his best shot, and the needle went on empty. So now it is Jesse Orozco who is asked to get Bill Doran with the bases loaded and 2 out in the 9th inning. Curve for a strike. Orozco has been hit by lightning twice this year. He has given up grand slam home runs to, in a sense, people you wouldn't expect to hit slams. Tom Herr of the Cardinals and Tim Raines of Montreal. Doran, by the way, has never hit one. Breaking ball missed, 1-1. Reynolds at third, Lopes at second, Young at first, and Doran is the tying run with 2 down in the 9th inning. Orozco in his 31st game. A record of 1-6, but he has 11 saves. Breaking ball fouled away, 1-2. So Dwight Gooden, who came within and out, but couldn't get that elusive final one, has to look to Orozco to get it for him. One ball and 2 strikes to Bill Doran. On deck, Denny Walling. Jim Pankovich has a bat in the Houston dugout. Breaking ball hit foul the other way. 1-2. Right-hand hitters against Orozco are hitting .312, but they turn Doran around to take those extra steps away from him to first base. One and 2. Curveball fouled away, and he just got a piece of it.
He's hardly shown him a fastball. It's been mostly breaking balls.
Right.
And wanting him to furnish his own power if he's going to try to hit the long one, and Doran just barely stayed alive.
Those are the men available, and the fellow swinging the bat is Pankovich. He's at the far end of the dugout. Remember, you have a left-hand hitter on deck, Denny Walling. There's Pankovich. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Bill Doran, and the ball game on the line. 2 out in the 9th, 7-3 Mets, and the bases are loaded. Reynolds, Lopes, and Young taking their lead. Two and 2. He hadn't thrown a straight pitch yet. And Davies gone to stuffing the tobacco. Driven by tension to a terrible habit.
Not going to help him either way.
Deuces wild on Doran with the bases loaded. Got him. And that's the life of the baseball player. Doran, the hero last night in the penthouse, goes to the basement tonight, strikes out with the bases loaded. Orozco gets his 12th save, and Gooden wins his 6th. He is 6-2. The loser is Mike Scott, 10-5, 0-2, 2-7 lifetime. Quite a finish.
Yes, it was. That 3rd inning was the big thing when Gooden, man on 3rd and nobody out, was able to pitch out of it. A great play by Johnson did it.
Well, tonight's NBC Miller Lite Player of the Game, Dwight Gooden, who got into the 9th. Miller Lite happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Dwight Gooden to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society. Tomorrow, join us right here at the Astrodome for the Saturday game of the week. It'll be Danny Darwin and Terry Leach. Now, for Joe Garagiola, this is Vin Scully wishing you a very pleasant good evening from Houston.